As you'll know, if you're like me, sometimes you've just got to talk things out. And I really cannot take any more of BBC management gushing about Steve Wright. Helen Thomas, BBC management. I can't. I, and of course, lovely listeners saying lovely things about Steve Wright and all the people who grew up with Steve, and people who said, I heard it on this morning, someone saying, even his voice reminds me of being in the truck, in my cab of my truck. Like I can still smell my cab of my truck when I hear his voice because he was with me in my cab every day. Like to hear those people saying stuff, I think that's so meaningful. All the people he's saved without knowing it, all the people he's kept going, made laugh when they felt hopeless. All the people. I mean, I speak for none of them and no one else but myself. But listening to management banging on about what a legend of the airways, broadcasting legends, all true, of course, but failing to acknowledge, and maybe today isn't the day you acknowledge this stuff, but maybe today is the day you shut up if you were part of the team that removed all of these amazing individuals in a deliberate act. And Paul O'Grady. It doesn't matter whether people were supporters of these guys or not, but these are people who lived for radio. I only know a mere sniff of what it might have been like to care for radio in the way that they do, but they live for radio. Paul O'Grady, that team, Ken Bruce, Vanessa Phelps, every morning, they're chirpy, cheery, lovely, all of them. Whatever went on, because Vanessa walked before, but they were told, basically, you're no longer required here at Radio 2. And they got rid of them all and replaced them for something that's a very obvious template, So you have to be gay, and outrageously so, or you have to be drag and represent drag, or you have to be female, or someone with a regional accent, or you have to be some new accepted comedian. And I say comedian in the loosest possible sense. You have to be Ranga what's his face, or you have to be another one of the gormless idiots to be accepted. And that's okay. No criticism of them particularly either. That's their job, and they've got that job, and that's great. This is more about what happens to someone when they're made to feel like they don't count anymore. And this is much, much bigger than just Steve. When you make people feel like they're no longer relevant or worthwhile, or you make people feel like there's no hope for them. And I hear this story all the time on the road. That sense of deflation with lovely men I know, because there's no point them applying for the promotion or the higher role or thinking about being promoted, because they won't be, because they're the wrong age, wrong type, they don't fulfill any of the required criteria. So it's actually nothing to do at this point about race or some sort of racism. This is just about mandated criteria from the global elite, DEI and all the rest of it. And the fact that you won't fulfill that criteria, so there's no point in even trying. And at the point that there's no point even trying, but you still need to earn an income, well, you just have to be happy with what you have. And none of us know how Steve passed and love him. But you can't help but feel, because of seeing it in so many other people, Steve is just an ordinary dude like one of us. If you take away a man or woman's purpose, then what point life? If your life's purpose was to be in people's ears in a way that made them all feel like you were just talking to them, And you can make them laugh, or you can make them cry, or you could make them feel heard, or you could make them feel that they had company in a world where more and more people feel incredibly alone. Well, that was your whole life's purpose. And regardless of medicine or the science or what someone in a uniform with a stethoscope says, or one of the doctors we're supposed to trust, what happens when you take away a man's purpose? Well, then the point of living, I would say, becomes a question in and of itself. So you do other things, whatever those things might be, that won't be so good for you. But mostly, I guess it's the hypocrisy of people fawning now, not listeners, just the management, in particular, the head of BBC Radio 2, Helen Thomas, who I know and knows me. And also, on a much wider point, that Steve, for me, will be an example of how so many others out there feel in the UK at the moment, and in other countries too, that they don't matter, that their voice doesn't count, that they are replaceable despite your numbers, despite your success, despite your commercial, success, despite all of the quant and qual and the data that's supposed to decide, right, whether you're any good or not. That data doesn't matter. That data doesn't count. It doesn't count because now things aren't measured in data. They're measured in a criteria mandated by world leaders who only want to see the demise of the culture that Steve and others were so much a part of. So I think I needed to get that off my chest so that it doesn't kind of package inwards and then explode out in some other way. And also accepting, if I may, if you're still with me, I accept criticism of what I'm saying. I accept that you will think it's not the right thing to say. It's not the right time to say it. It's not very British to say it. You don't know what happened to him, so you can't say it. All the reasons why I'm wrong to say all of this. And I just want to say, if you feel like that, I totally accept your criticism of me and I see your point of view. It doesn't mean I agree with you, and that's fine, just as you don't need to agree with me. It's a very British thing not to talk about real feelings when someone dies. I think I got over that a very long time ago when I didn't have, or wasn't supposed to, get past 40. And that the truth of the matter is we don't say enough great things about people when they are alive. And the truth of the matter as well is that if there's anything I think people who have died deserve, it's honesty. I've been a monumental cock-up in my life, and that's the kind of honesty I want to hear when I pop off. But Steve, the honest truth was that he was always great, is still great, is always going to be better than anything else that might try to replace him, and honestly deserved much better while he was still with us.